If you aren't angry these days, that's because you haven't been paying attention. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Chris Martinson of Peak Prosperity, and we are in another scouting report. It looks like, it's already June 10th. How did that happen? Wow, Europe. Huge upsets, if you can call them upsets, but people are upset over there, and they finally decided, you know what? We've had enough of being sold out by our politicians for some technocratic dream of like multiculturalism and this and that and everything else and pissing on our cultures, and they've had enough. And so guess what? They voted what is being called far right in your media. I guarantee it. But far right now simply means people who can manage what we would call reality and actually like their world to make sense. That's now a far right concept because everything coming out of the far left is just nonsense these days. And I mean pure nonsense, but hopefully that's in retreat. We've got some signs that it is, but this big populist revolt, we got to go there, talk about that very quickly. Europe votes right. Sure, in brown, in France, this is where Marine Le Pen, won yesterday. And by the way, that's Paris. So there's a lot of, if you had a population density map, this is where a lot of the people of France actually live right here. Was that Lyon maybe? So all the big white areas are actually population centers. So this is the same thing we're seeing. People out in the country, the people who often are blue collar workers, they're farmers, they're the salt of the land, right? These are people are very, very tired of what the people in the cities have been voting for and continue to vote for. I don't know what happens to people in cities, but they ultimately end up living in a world of abstraction. By the way, if you want to thrive during the next period of time that's coming, get out of the city. You got to start learning some skills out there. Hey, I'm recording this from my country studio here. We've got cows, got chickens, all these things that would make us far right. Because you know what? We here at our homestead have the capability to produce some of our own food, which means we're not entirely dependent on a system, which means the system can't control us, which is why that system no longer likes people like me and Evie and calls us far right. AKA how people have been through all of history until recently when they lost their collective minds. Now, this has a lot of implications for what's going to happen in the United States. I'm very worried because still the Biden team is not campaigning. I think they're not campaigning because this is the plan. Now, again, I have to hold the sign up because there's still a little sensitivity in the system about talking about this word right here, even though we now know that these have not been free or fair for 20 years. Okay? So, excuse me, in Europe where they can vote, however, look what in Germany too, the right-wing AfD becomes the second strongest party in Germany, outperforming all three members of the ruling left green liberal coalition in the EU. So yes, look at all these far right people right here. Terrible, of course, the way the media is going to portray them. But that happened in Germany. What else happened? Exit polls in Giorgia Meloni's right-wing party in Italy set to win most seats, beating the center-left opposition. Wow. Carrying on. Hey, Hungary too. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's Fidesz party just won landslide victory in Hungary with a commanding vote of 43.7% in the European Parliament and municipal elections. Wow. So this is just going on and on and on, and Europe starts to swing right. So we had France, 31.5% going to Marine Le Pen's party, just 15% to that odious excrement called Macron. That little bureaucratic troll who has been destroying his country, trying hard to drag his country into war in Ukraine, which, by the way, normal people don't want anything to do with. Look at this right here. What do they say in Hungary? No war. People don't want war. People never want war. But vicious little dirtbags like Macron, they want war because war helps keep them in power, and that's all they care about. They don't care if you die or your family dies or your family fortunes are ruined or the farm gets burned down. Don't care because they have standard cluster B, sociopathic tendencies. It's all about them. Can they stay in power? They don't care what happens to you. They don't care if they have to print too much money and your economics get ruined. They don't care if inflation destroys you. They don't care how many people die from fentanyl. They don't care if they have open borders or not. They don't care if they bring in migrants who are unvetted, many of whom are not the kind of people you want to have in your community because they got let out of prison, emptied out of prison from their home country, and now they're in yours. They don't care about any of that stuff. They don't care, and people do care, and that's what we're starting to see here. So please resist any attempts to buy into the narrative that this somehow represents far right and that this is a bad thing for people to get together and decide that they like their culture and they would like to have some say in how their future unfolds and that they would prefer not to go to war. Oh, let's carry on, though. Europe swings to the right, they say here. Today is the start of new era in Europe. France, obviously 31.5%. Germany, AfD, becomes the second largest party. Oh, Belgium, too. Oh, you don't say. Belgium? There you have it. You know what? That looks and sounds a lot like a Trump rally, right? People getting together and displaying a sense of unity, esprit de corps, and wanting something for their country that their prior rulers and leaders didn't want. Now, you know where I fall on this. I'm not a Trumpian by any stretch, but I am very much a populist at this particular stage because the populists are all about having individual rights, and we believe in individual responsibility, individual, all kinds of things. And the collectivists, they don't believe in any of that stuff. They want to be able to be in charge of what you think, what you say, what you wear, what you can say, what you can't say. They want speech. They don't even want any religion, but they want to control speech, outcomes, everything, despite the fact none of them actually have any experience building anything successfully. They're very good at tearing stuff down, but they're really, really awful at building things up because you know what? Building things up takes time, it takes effort, it takes persistence, it takes a risk tolerance, it takes taking chances. It means you have to actually put yourself on the line. They don't want that. They just want to take what's yours so that they can redistribute it mostly to themselves, but also their friends and things and causes and abstractions that they feel are important to them, right? They don't care about the reality of this whole thing. So this has been awful. Like watching, the council in San Francisco, the city council saying, "Oh, well, let's just raise the shoplifting limit to $950 before it becomes, a chargeable offense." Guess what? You have a lot of shoplifting all of a sudden. So they sit down and they don't go, "Wow, that did not work out like we thought. That was a complete disaster." They don't do that. They don't reflect. They just go, maybe we should raise the limit again because we're starting to get more charges here, right? If you do not prevent people from taking dumps on your sidewalk, San Francisco, you get more dumps on your sidewalks. It's just how it works. And so this is the battle right now that I'm seeing. It's not far right, far left. It's not left, right. It's between collectivists and individualists. It's between people who believe in abstractions. We have to help the people. We're all about effective altruism. We believe in trans rights versus people who believe in individualism. Like, oh no, it's not trans rights. It's what do we do about this particular individual? Are they having a mental health crisis? Is this a legit thing? Where do we stand on this particular story? It's not about helping the people. I want to help persons, people with actual retinas and fingerprints and names and all of that other stuff. It's about the reality of what it takes to actually bring food to the table, to get oil out of the ground. These are the things that reality is made out of. The abstractionists over here, well, they went to some of the best universities and they are several generations removed from dirt under the fingernails, which means often they have very little operative understanding about how the world actually works. Like, how does all this magic show up around me? How is it that Costco's always got stuff on the shelves? Well, there's a lot of reality happening in the background to make that happen. And that reality is what people are finally protesting against there in Europe finally. And I'm a little worried about what this means in the United States, because to this day, I still can't detectably see that Biden-Harris are campaigning. I don't think the DNC is campaigning. And there's two reasons why you don't campaign. One, you already know how the election's going to turn out. You're sure about that for some reason. Or there's some other reason, and we have to pick what those reasons might be. Now, carrying on, in France, the far left, they just got obliterated. So we'll see what the next moves are. But one of the popular moves in politics when you lose is to graciously admit defeat. No, just kidding. joke. You start a war, right? So, or you do something highly distractive like that. So this is the danger zone, folks. We are in the danger zone right now, where we have to be alert to the idea that somebody somewhere is going to, stir up a little trouble so they can avoid having to face the reality of their loss, the reality of the fact that the people said, no, we don't like your stuff, the reality of the fact that they're not very popular. Right now, Biden-Harris, for good reason, are polling in the subcellar basement area, right? It's just awful, atrocious polling. Why? Well, because he's senile and demented, and Kamala is about as useless a human being as you could possibly want. She's great insurance policy for Biden. I mean, who wants Kamala as president? If Kamala becomes president, the only thing that I would accept is if she puts Cheech and Chong on her cabinet and brings back the Keanu Reeves from back in the day when he was playing clueless stonerheads. I mean, it's a laughingstock. The United States, laughingstock. Well, anyway, now thankfully also Macron is a laughingstock. And I see here, right-wing tsunami. France is stunned after he has to announce these snap elections right here. He has to dissolve the National Assembly, and it's a new day in France, and that's a good thing. So let's just remember, though, who Macron is good friends with. Things are really awful in Canada right now. People are struggling with wicked high inflation up there, household formation. People can't afford to buy houses. All of this is by design. You have to understand these are policies executed by these sorts of folks to make ordinary people's lives miserable, because what they really want is ordinary people dependent on the state so the state can control the handouts that the people get. It's just power. It's just really gross power. When it comes to Trudeau, that apple did not fall far from that particular tree, if you catch my drift. All right. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about here, about those elections. Watch out what those mean in Europe. And watch out what that means in the United States. But now, for my subscribers at Peak Prosperity, come on back. We got to talk about something really, really, really important, which is this. Oh, hold on. Let me do this first, because this is lovely, because I think Ireland, you're next on the chopping block. What happens when people finally learn the truth, they say, or what happens when people wake up? They will not be able to walk down the street. The Great Awakening. What are we referring to here? It's this awesomeness right here. This is happening in, let me get the sound on this.
Incredible TV. Thank you for having me.
Anything to say about him?
Michael Reagan's incredible. Michael Reagan's an incredible TV.
So what have you to say about
Oh, getting spicy.
You know, what are you doing? What are you doing? Sorry, go on.
Way to go, warrior people. Finally, Ireland, the people of Ireland are waking up. By the way, they have been badly sold out by their leadership. They've so failed, comprehensively failed in every possible major respect by their so-called leadership. Again, I'm just confused as to why anybody thinks that these, dissing on your own people and destroying your own culture is like, what even is the mindset? I don't know. I don't get it. But people are waking up and they've had enough. And so this is a good thing, because if we continue down the other path, the totalitarian, the collectivist path, it ends in mass atrocities. So this is what's required to block it beforehand. So I'm actually reporting today a little bit of hope. This gives me hope that this means there is a chance to sway these things back away from the trajectory we were on, which ends in ruinous destruction. Whether that was economic destruction or finally ecological destruction, or whether it was finally war-based destruction, doesn't matter. The failed policies of failed people need to go away. All right, but this is what we're going to be talking about back at Peak Prosperity. Now, come on back. This is huge news. What does this mean that the Petrodollar agreement was not re-signed? So with that, thanks everybody for listening. For all you people who are members of Peak Prosperity, this other thing's big deal. Come on back. We'll talk about that. See you next time. And remember, it's not far right. These are reality-based folks. All right. Till next time. Bye-bye.